and Kwanzaa, and with tremendous respect for that. But we don't really do that in our house, to be honest with you. It doesn't mean we don't believe in it. I spoke at Milena Karenga's. Here's a, I think it's like a bookstore down in South Central, and I spoke there a few years ago, and it was really awesome. I spoke there twice, and both times it was like sold out, totally packed, like hundreds of people in there, and just so many smart people down in that area. I love. I think South Central is one of my favorite places in terms of just black people that just kind of get it and understand. And so, but still, I ain't gonna lie, we don't really do the Kwanzaa thing in the house, but we do the Christmas thing, and because we're all brainwashed, I guess. And one of the things about Christmas that's interesting is I think one of the best decisions I ever made, or the best adjustments I ever made, or I don't know how I got in this habit, is that I just don't really spend a lot of money on gifts. Because I've learned that the most valuable things you can give a person are things that money cannot buy, right? And so, um, you know, I want to first off, I'm sending out a text to you guys right now, letting you know that class is starting. So if you get a text from me, just ignore it. And so, literally, as you look at Christmas and you examine Christmas and you examine the fact that Black people are just the greatest consumers on the planet, in terms of us just really making other people filthy rich, I hope you'll sort of consider some alternatives as you go into the holidays. I'm not saying don't buy Christmas gifts, or I'm not saying you're a sellout if you do. In fact, I actually like the idea of making Christmas a memorable experience, largely because for kids, they like toys and they like the new stuff. They like the cool stuff, and it kind of sucks to not let them enjoy their lives when they're little. But there's always balance, right? And so the balance might come in the fact that number one, money doesn't usually buy the most valuable things that exist in your life. That's the first thing I've learned about money after studying money for 30 years. And then number two, I think sometimes it's okay to let a kid just have a good memory, like based on like some toy that they really wanted. Because remember, we all have different levels of consciousness, different levels of economic understanding, right? So that little 6-year-old may not understand exactly why you're insisting on buying them shares of stock instead of buying them their favorite toy. That may be traumatic for them, right? So we don't want to traumatize the babies, but we need to elevate the babies and get them ready for the future. All right. So we're gonna do a quick little Instagram field trip, and so just to make my point clear, I made a big sign where I said I put myself in the middle of New York City and said I want everybody buying stock for their kids for Christmas, not just toys. This is not just a request. This is absolutely mandatory for anybody who loves their children. So if you love your children, then you will buy them shares of stock, and not just at Christmas. You'll buy it for birthdays. You'll buy it once a month. You'll pay it just like you pay the light bill. You'll buy shares of stock for the family. So give me a yes if you can agree with me. If you say no, then maybe I got to keep on talking until I convince you to at least consider what I'm saying. I'm saying this as a financial scientist. I'm saying this as an economic expert. I'm saying this as a person who studied money. I know the difference between the rich and the poor. I know what financial literacy does and does not do for a human being. I've seen children grow from babies to adults and have no preparation. I've seen how much pain that causes. I've seen how much stress that is. I've seen how devastating it is for a young 25-year-old who can't pay the bills. So this is your solution. This is your answer. Al Sharpton ain't got your answer. Your pastor ain't got your answer. All these Negroes on TV ain't got the answer. But here's the truth. You don't even need me for the answer, because the answer is real simple. Buy them shares of stock. Lock them in, link them up with the greatest wealth generator in the history of the world. Tie their fate to the fate of the American economy. If they are as rich as white people are that are putting their money in this market, they're going to be okay. Do you agree with me? Can we like just get on the same page with this, please? I don't want to have to talk you into loving your kids. I really don't. And I'm going to just challenge you and say that if you don't prepare your kids, then it's hard to say that you love them. Seriously, I mean, if you sent your child to school every day with no coat on and it was 5 degrees outside, some people would accuse you of saying, you don't love your baby, do you? Right? And you say, I love my baby, but you're freezing your baby to death. He's shivering. The baby ain't had no breakfast. The baby's about to die out in the cold and he's hungry. So how you going to tell me you love the baby when you haven't really shown love to the baby, right? Love is a verb. Love is an action. Right? If you sent your kids out dusty, people will say, "Oh, you don't really love your kids. Look at how dirty they are. Look at how they ain't been fed. They're cold. They're dusty. So if you're gonna do all that, then don't send them into the world dusty. Do you understand? I mean, I hate to be the guy who's acting like that right now. I know I'm a little bit tough to digest, but I don't give a damn. I have to do this because we have to work as aggressive to dismantle the brainwashing as others were aggressive in creating the brainwashing. Somebody taught us to put dusty kids out in the street who can't pay their dang bills and they out here struggling. Stop doing that. And preparation is the key to success. Preparation is the key to success. Everything's easy if you're prepared. Life is easy if you study. Just like a math test in college, it's easy if you studied. It's hard if you didn't study. Preparation's key. So this is preparation. Why do I say this? Let me give you some stats to help you understand why I'm not just a crazy man who yelling at you on a Sunday morning. I don't mean to, but I got to do this because I care about your kids and I hope you care about your kids too, and you'll understand why I'm insistent upon this. All right. So again, I want to reiterate this though. I'm not saying like don't sit around and give your child the speech about how Christmas is for sellouts and toys don't matter and all that. No, they like toys. You can get them toys and shares of stock. You can buy them the Disney toy and the Disney shares at the same time. But the other thing too is when you buy the stock, just as a specific, some of you have asked me about this before. I'm not a believer in giving the stock to the child. I'm not a believer in giving the wealth to the child. I'm a believer in investing for the family, and this is an important concept. People think when I say invest for your children that I'm talking about buying them a bunch of assets and giving them $100,000 when they're 12 years old. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying don't do it just for them. Do it for yourself. I mean, Lord Jesus, if you're doing all this work to take care of other people, you should be taken care of too. Is that okay? Is it okay if we also talk about how you deserve to eat like everybody else? I'm not talking about the what is it the sacrificial fantasy that we have where some guy is sitting at the NFL draft saying, my mother suffered for 25 years and cleaned white people's underwear and sold her body on the street so we could pay the bills and now look at me, look at how great I'm doing and I'm joking, but really I don't think that has to be your story. I don't think it has to be one where you're sacrificing completely and everybody else is benefiting. That does not lead to a sustainable and solid economic model. Do you understand what I mean? It doesn't lead to outcomes that are going to be good for everybody, right? And the thing about economics is that it's an ecosystem, right? An ecosystem means that that we can recycle things and I can give to you, you give to me. Ecosystems are built on the law of reciprocity. Type the word reciprocity in the chat. I want to see who knows how to spell. Type the word reciprocity in the chat. Reciprocity is an important economic principle, and all it really means is I pour into you, you pour into me. I give to you, you give to me. I hook you up, you hook me up, because I want to be hooked up too. I won't be out here with nothing. In fact, I need to be hooked up. You need to hook me up. You need to make me strong. Because why? Well, because I'm up here making everybody else strong. You out here carrying the load for everybody else. You're the one that's showing up for all these people. You're the one who's being solid and consistent and reliable and capable and for all these other people. And so they should be hooking you up. The king pours into the community pours into the king. The queen pours into her subjects, the subjects pour into the queen, right? So you are the king, you are the queen. Some of you are leaders of your household. Some of you are the grandparents. Some of you are the aunties, the uncles, the mentors, whatever it is that you are, the father, mother, all these things. Love yourself too. So here's the deal. Here's what I want to say to you. I want to make this clear so everybody gets it. Let me know if you understand what I'm talking about. When I say invest for your child, I am not saying sacrifice everything and you go through hell so somebody else can have a heaven. That is not, in my view, the most efficient way to get the job done. I'm not saying it can't get the job done. I'm saying it's not efficient because I don't want your life to suck, and I don't want you to have to wait for your rewards. This ain't no, what is it? What do you call it? In the buy, you get your rewards in the by and by. Like you got to work yourself to death, and then you get your rewards in heaven. Nah, man, we're gonna build heaven right here. There might be heaven afterward, like the afterlife. You can believe how you want with that, but we need heaven right here. So here's what I want you to think about this. When you invest for your child, in my view, you should be investing for the family. You're investing for yourself. Because the stronger you are financially, the stronger your child will be. You are the tree, they are the fruit. Am I lying? Does the fruit not benefit from the strength of the tree? Do you agree with me? So what does that mean? That means, yeah, I'm buying shares of stock for the child, but I'm really buying them for the family. And I let the child know, like, hey, when you get older and you get into the real world, we'll have something here waiting for you. We'll be able to take care of you. We'll give you financial backing. We'll give you something that's literally the most important thing a black person can have, not a college degree. All the studies show that black wealth does not go up if you get college degrees. That's the interesting. I was doing research on updated data just this weekend, and basically, it just even in the last 10 years, they found that black wealth has actually gone down, despite the fact that we're getting more and more educated black people. Entrepreneurship is going up, which is exactly the goal that we had in the very beginning, right? So I'm happy to know that all of us played a part in this, which that's going to be pretty powerful. It's a lack of access to capital that's an issue, and also education ain't increasing black wealth because student loans are killing people's finances, right? So the college degree, it's not a bad thing to have, but it's not the most important thing you can have. The most important thing you can have to survive in America is a capital base. If you have a capital base, then you can do whatever you want. You don't need a college degree. All the people that work for Mark Zuckerberg that wear suits and ties every day, remember that Zuckerberg's, was putting his company on the New York Stock Exchange and he had a damn hoodie on, right? So the boss wears the hoodie. It's the people that are trying to slave for the boss that end up having to wear the suits and ties or the quarter zip. As you can see, I'm wearing my quarter zip today. And you guys know, in case you don't know about the quarter zip fad, that's like a new trend right now. And it's crazy. I'm like, man, I'm so cool right now because I got like 40 of them suckers in my closet. And I've been having that. I've been quarter zipping, but then I also grew up to grown man clothes, which was like suits and ties and stuff too. So really the idea that it's controversial for black men to dress like men is kind of weird to me, right? Like why you 45 dressing like a teenager, man? You got to stop that. But anyway, with that being said, if you move on into this thing with wealth for your kids, I want you to think of the wealth like a car, right? So if I buy a car, then I'm going to let my child use. There's nothing wrong with me driving that car for a few years and then passing it down to them. That's what we did with the we got a car and we gave it to one of our kids, and but it was like 10 years old. We didn't feel like she needed a new car, right? And then now her sister will be driving. She's got the permit, and it's riding with her is like an absolute horror show. But she's now learning how to drive, and she's gonna drive the car after her sister did, and that's how wealth can operate, right? We put 100,000 miles on that damn thing. The her sister done put probably 10, 15,000 on it, and then she's going to get to drive it. And what's happened, pay attention now. What has been going on in this time to make this possible? Well, we've been maintaining the car. We've been taking care of the car. It's not like, don't imagine if we had crashed the car every year and bought a new car every year. Like imagine that. Like imagine if we just one day just decided, we don't like this car no more. I drove it off the bridge. It's in the water now, right? So then they walk in. They ain't got no transportation. And then if I do decide to get them transportation, it's going to be very expensive. So when you get income and you don't turn that income into wealth at all, what you're doing is you're taking the car and you're driving it off a bridge, and then you're waiting until you get enough money to buy a new car. It is very freaking expensive to be black and waste money. It is really expensive to not build generational wealth. It's very expensive not to preserve what you have. It's very expensive to never learn asset protection. People talk about how much it costs to take a class on finances. Well, you should compare that to the cost of being financially ignorant. The cost of ignorance will always exceed the cost of knowledge any day of the week. So you got to make a decision which cost you're going to pay, which investment do you make? Right? And so ultimately, when you're talking about going into Christmas, the biggest thing I would say is make investing part of the Christmas goal. But then the other thing too is I don't want you just investing at Christmas. You don't only pay bills at Christmas. You don't only pay your cell phone at Christmas. You don't just pay your car note at Christmas. You don't just pay your rent at Christmas. You do that year round. So why in the hell are you doing all these other things year round? But it's got to be a special occasion before you do something for yourself or for your family. No, in my life I like to believe it's a special occasion when I go do something for white folks, like because I don't really hang with them that much. I don't hate them. I just ain't got time for you. I'm sorry. I got too much other stuff I got to do regularly for my people. And then if you're around, like I got a nice neighbor. He's not black. He's a really nice guy, and I'll help him out. I told him. I said, hey man, if you need some support on anything, let me know. But he's not nearly at the top of my priority list. So you got to put yourself at the top of the priority list. Your financial what's more important for a person in this country than financial security? especially in a country that's designed around the exploitation of financial insecurity. They design entire systems around, they need you to be broke. You know that, I mean, pimping been around for a long time, and pimps can't prosper if their little hoes are doing well financially. So capitalism is built on pimping. If you understand pimping, you understand capitalism. And I hate saying it like that, but that's what it is. Every analogy of pimping, the psychological manipulation, the threats of physical harm, the threats of harm if you disobey, misinformation, and basically blocking you from having access to knowledge and information. That all happens. That's a reason why they don't teach you financial literacy in school. There's a reason why they're not training the kids to own businesses and be independent. They need them to get them to go to work every day. Who else gonna do the damn work? It ain't gonna be the Rockefeller family. They're not like we don't want to do the work. The Waltons, they own Walmart. They're not going to work every day. They're like, we need to go get like we need about a couple 100,000 hoes that's gonna go into Walmart every day and put on a little uniform and represent our interests. And pimping ain't easy, Lady Emma. I agree with you. Pimping ain't easy. So pimps got to be strategic. The pimps. I ain't a fan of pimping. I think it's kind of. I mean, it's sex trafficking, man. Like we shouldn't be glorifying pimps like Don Juan and all that. But still, pimps are like actually very strategic individuals. They're not stupid people actually. If you ever listen to it, you ever sit and listen to a pimp talk, and they be talking and everything like rhymes, and it flows real nice, and like, wow, that's really just misused intelligence. But still, don't get pimped. All right. So anyway, let me go back. Let's go back to Instagram. And by the way, we have a Black Business School for Children. If you want to go take a look, it's blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. That's blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. Also, we have financial flashcards and workbooks and things like that for kids. So if you go to drboycebooks.com, the code you can use this week is Black Friday 60. Black Friday 60. It takes 60% off everything that you want to buy, and that actually would be on top of whatever discount's already there. So if you've been waiting for your chance, this is your chance. Go in there and empty the store out whenever you want. So it's drboycebooks.com. The code is Black Friday 60, all one word. Put that in right before you check out, and it'll take 60% off your flashcards, workbooks, whatever you want to get, or you get copies of my book as well. All right, so let's go back to Instagram, and we'll address this one again. I want to show you some cool stuff, funny stuff that was just on my mind that I think relates to the economy, particularly is what's going in terms of what's going on this week. So this is something. This is where the AI is sitting with the therapist and saying, "I think I might be overvalued," and the therapist is thinking that's an understatement. So right now, a lot of economists would say that we are in an AI bubble. AI bubble means that you have some irrational exuberance in terms of the pricing of these assets. That basically some of these stocks are inflated. Even Nvidia is making more money than God, it seems like, and their stock has been going down, which is just insane. But yeah, so this bubble. Yeah, and there are things that can actually pop the bubble, right? Things that there are concerns in the private credit market that could actually cause some significant issues. And right now, there's a lot of debate about what the Fed is going to do next. If the Fed decides to go dovish, meaning lowering interest rates, then that's going to explode your stocks again. But there are lots of people in the Fed who are what they call hawks, who don't want to lower interest rates. They want to actually keep them high or even increase them because they feel the economy is strong enough and they want to fight against inflation. So this is an ongoing battle. Nobody knows. You just invest consistently. We did the training on Friday night at the last financial slumber party on storm-proof investing, and basically there are some mechanisms you can put in your portfolio that will protect you. If you want to get a copy of that training, just go to stormproofinvesting.com. That's stormproofinvesting.com. And by the way, y'all kept me up too late on Friday night, and I was so like hungover the next day that I literally had to like sleep in, and I just couldn't get up, so I had to cancel class. So forgive me for that. Plus I got a wife, and they say you're supposed to spend time with your spouse, and so I have to do that too because she was kind of she wasn't mad at me for having the slumber party, but I mean, come on, I'm a grown man. What the hell, grown man doing having slumber parties? I mean, come on, what am I cussing out or something? But anyway, yeah. But with that said, I had a great time with you guys. And in case you want to know what we did with the slumber parties, we played music and stayed up all night, and we went through portfolio adjustments and different stocks that I like, and the breakdown of stormproof investing. That's what it was. All right. So anyway, so here, I think the URL is like financialslumberparty.com. I think if you go to financialslumberparty.com, you can sign up for the next one. All right, so here's something else on Instagram I wanted to show you. This is just a little video that talks about a phenomenon in terms of wealth and spending. So let me break this down. Let me open this up. Here we go. Let me see.
Here are five.
Let me know if you can hear this. I'm gonna turn this up. Let me know if you can hear this video. Give me a yes when I play it. Here it goes.
Things you didn't know about engagement rings that will shock you. First, the average engagement ring costs 3 months of salary, and most people can't afford it. 73% of rings are bought on credit, starting relationships with instant debt. Second, many couples begin marriage $8,000 in debt just from the proposal alone. That sparkling symbol of love becomes their first financial burden together. Third, ring debt increases divorce probability by 30%. The very thing meant to represent forever love creates the stress that tears couples apart. Fourth, couples who spend over $3,000 on engagement rings are more likely to divorce within 5 years. The bigger the ring, the bigger the risk of failure. Fifth, here's the most twisted irony of all. The symbol designed to represent eternal commitment often becomes the first crack in a relationship's foundation. Love starts with debt, and debt destroys love. The ring that was supposed to bind them together becomes the weight that pulls them apart. Here are 5 things you...
All right, so if you want to watch that video, share it or comment on it, you can actually go to Dr. Boyce or at Dr. Boyce Finance, and so basically, don't worry about the visuals. And I know there was some like mixed couples in there, whatever. Just who cares? Anyway, so here's the thing: the thing about engagement rings that you got to understand is that that actually what's interesting is that there are millions of people. My wife would probably have a lot to say about this. There are lots of people who are caught up in the idea of getting married, but don't have any interest in what's required to be married. And one of the things that they find in these studies is that when people have financial problems and the cash flow is screwed up and the economics is off, it'll highly increase the probability of divorce. Financial insecurity creates a lot of stress, trauma, and anxiety. And it's really hard. I mean, marriage is already stressful enough. And then you got like all this pressure coming from the bills on top of that. That's really a lot. That's a lot to manage. And the fact that people take kind of a do-it-yourself approach, like I'm just going to figure it out, that makes it even worse, right? They don't want to get a therapist and read a book on how to actually be married and stay married. And that right there is a massive wealth loss because wealth is very um, wealth is killed in a bad relationship. Also, marriage and family and all that. That's the biggest investment that you ever make. There's no investment that you'll ever make more than that you'll ever make that's more impactful than who you choose to be with and spend your time with. So ultimately, when I think uh, about the marriage process, I think that what happens is that that's a consciousness issue where your desire for the dopamine driven instant gratification, like, the fact that she's gorgeous and or he's a doctor and or you get to have the big wedding day, that causes you to make a lot of long-term commitments that you're not quite ready for. And so when you get to the reality of fulfilling those commitments, like paying interest on a credit card for the next 20 years because you had a one big beautiful day. Like if we have one big beautiful bill, we got one big beautiful day, and you end up with one big beautiful bill that results from that day. It's crazy. In fact, there are studies also that show that a lot of people that get divorced are still trying to pay off the wedding. Like, right? So really, that's something to kind of think about in terms of consciousness is, that just that piece about who you choose to spend your time with. I think that that's a really important part of your economic development. I would encourage you to really think that through as you make your decisions. In fact, I think Alicia, my wife is a licensed therapist, and she's going to do some sort of series on picking the right relationship, right? And that's going to be a big one, right? So ultimately, that's something worth kind of looking at. All right. So what else? Let me share something else with you. I just have all these like funny things I want to share that I think are just interesting. Let me see. All right. So as you guys know, I'm really a big fan of the whole quarter zip. There's just that quarter zip thing. Some of you may have missed the video, but I'll play this video, and I just think it's interesting because literally this can be linked to economic theory, and I'll explain why. So let me play this video for you real quick.
Of the quarter zip movement, and honestly, I'm obsessed. It's a wave of young black men and boys deciding, yeah, maybe sagging jeans and Nike streetwear aren't for me. Instead, they're putting on clean quarter zip, tailored chinos, and starting their mornings with matcha and the Book of Proverbs. It's giving young gentleman era. It's a welcome, quiet cultural shift because it's young men saying, how I show up to the world matters. And they're right, it does. People treat you differently when you look like you respect yourself. On TikTok, creators like Jason Jemfi, who's actually the founder of this movement, help spark the wave. You've probably seen his viral clip telling young men to get an education because being educated is cool now.
It's cool to go to school for 4 years and get your degree, or however long it takes you. It's cool. Go to school.
Then you've got the Akitunde twins who tell their followers to look neat, speak clearly, and start the day with the word of God.
The one thing that remained faithful is that guy up there. Thank you guys. Y'all have a blessed day. Love y'all.
And their jokes are elite. Instead of sliding into a woman's DMs, they'll be like, no, send her a Google Calendar invite. Quarter zip men don't ask for your Snapchat, they send meeting links. But beneath the humor is something real. They're choosing discipline over dysfunction.
It's not cool to be uneducated, unruly, violent. And far too long that's been a trend and it's only been getting worse. So this whole quarter zip movement is to break that.
They're choosing aspiration over sloppiness. And they're showing that black youth culture doesn't have to be dictated by rappers, gang culture, or the loudest voices in chaotic industries. You can be well-spoken, well-dressed, spiritually grounded, and still cool. That's why this movement feels bigger than quarter zips. It's funny and playful, yes, but it's also genuinely hopeful. It's a generation of young men deciding they want better and choosing to present themselves like they mean it. So quarter zips up, gentlemen.
Okay, so what do you all think about that? I personally liked it a lot. Now, I did hear people that criticized the fact that a lot of the individuals that were leading this quarter zip movement are not African American, right? You hear their accents as they're speaking, stuff like that. And then there are some people who talk about things like what they call respectability politics, that if black people simply dressed better and spoke better, then they wouldn't be victims of racism and things like that. And so I wasn't really sure. I mean, I heard the criticism or whatever, but I'm going to give you my perspective on it, and I'd like to see what you guys think about this. Like, do you like it or not like it? Like, sort of give me like your couple, 2 words of just what you think about this whole quarter zip situation. Anyway, do you like it? Okay? Tara says she loves it. Jamie says I like it. Latasha says I like it. Wait, sorry. Latasha says no one should be criticizing this movement. Yeah. I kind of think it's interesting, right? When you have a scenario where it's like basically they're just saying we don't want to all dress like teenagers for the rest of our lives. We want to be seen as grown men, right? And of course there's other stuff, like I don't think you have to be carrying. I don't even know what the hell a matcha is. I do drink like mocha latte and I drink my coffee. And so I got my quarter zip in my coffee, but I didn't need to become an immigrant to do that. I just like coffee and I think the quarter zip looks nice and it's better than me showing up wearing. I mean, if I got a wife beater on underneath, would y'all like me better in a wife beater? Would that make me more relatable to African American people? No, that's silly, right? Like and what I really liked about it personally, I can only speak on what I liked about it, and we're gonna talk about the economic side of this as well. What I liked about, I didn't give a damn where it came from. I just, Jay-Z went through a phase like this actually, where Jay-Z was like, I don't want to wear long jerseys anymore. Remember those days to wear those long jerseys back in the early 2000s? He's like, I don't want to do that no more. I want to dress like a grown up. I want to be a grown man, right? And because grown men get treated a certain way in society. If you are 40 years old and you're dressing like a child, 30 years old even, and you're dressing like a child, then not only is society gonna marginalize you, but you're marginalizing yourself. You're kind of claiming, unfortunately, that I belong at the children's table. I should not be eating with the grown men. I'm not a grown man. I'm a teenager. I'm a kid. A 17-year-old who just dressed like a 17-year-old who's sitting amongst grown men and grown women is not going to get treated like an adult. And so, in fact, when I spoke to some young men that were they were brothers between 16 and 21 years old, I said, how you present yourself to the world will determine how the world treats you. So if you show up and you're like, yo, man, I'm just out here, dog. I'm just, doing my thing. I'm just out here thugging with it, whatever. If you do that, then they're gonna be like, oh, okay, bro. I see you, bro. You're right. They're gonna placate to. They're just gonna kind of go along with that, right? But if you say, "Hi, my name is Jonathan Smith, and I'm the CEO of a tech company that manufactures headphones for children with one toe," whatever it is, right? Like then people are going to be like, "Oh, CEO, okay," and you hand them your business card. What's wrong with that? And so I didn't see a ton of criticism for it. I did see a few people that unfortunately sometimes we get trained to be just mad about everything. And I'm not saying that their criticism should be dismissed. I think it can be heard. I think that there is something to the idea that America is a country that unfortunately has always treated African people differently from African Americans. America hates African Americans in general. I really believe that. I believe that there are aspects of Black culture that you and I might be able to tolerate that others will simply not even entertain at all. They just see it and they say, "What's wrong with those people?" Right? So I think that the racism's real, the differential's real, and I've seen so many scenarios where, tell me if you've noticed this, way times where they will go and put an African person in a position. They'll say, "See, we got a Black person, DEI, y'all." And African American people will be like, "No, no, 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 that's not, nope, nope, stop, nope, nope, that's Black, that's a substitute." And then it creates an artificial division, right? But it's real. When I was at Syracuse University on the faculty, and I called them out, my tenure process was ugly, and I said, "Screw you. You're not going to convince me that I'm unqualified to do my job. I was trained by the very best in the world. I'm smarter than most of you right here." And I said, and I said, "Here's your problem." I said, "You have a finance department that in 50, 60 years has never given a promotion to a Black man. You don't hire Black people. And not only do you have that in the finance department, I can name 40, 30, 30, 40 departments that have the same track record." So I said the problem is not whether or not you have the right to decide if I'm qualified to be here. I don't even want to be here. I'm moving on. I'm going to go do some bigger things anyway. The problem for you is that you won't address your racism. The problem for you is that you want to believe that the reason that you've never hired a Black person in the English department or whatever it is because Black people are just not qualified, and there's not a single African American on the planet that can do a job that's been done by thousands of white men. So the problem is not me. The problem is actually you. And so I'm going to do you a favor and help you to understand that, right? And so, of course, white folks don't like you talking down to them on their territory. So they're like, "We don't get this Negro out of here." But that's okay. 12, 13 years later, I stand by that very point. And so what happened then that was really fascinating was they came out literally. I could tell I really got under their skin because they came out their PR office literally. I think they told some outlet, I don't know if it was a Journal of Higher Education or whatever it was. They were like, "Yeah, our faculty is 30% Black." It was some crazy number. And there was another Black professor, another African American woman. She called me. She said, "Did you see that number that they said about the percentage of Black people that they have teaching on the campus?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "I was asking, where are all these Black people at?" And here's what went on. What they did was they took everybody that they hired, and people don't know that in academia you got different levels. You got adjunct professors, assistant professors, tenured professors, full professors. My wife is up here. Shout out to all the hardworking Black women. Only about maybe 10% of all PhDs become full professors. Only 1% of the population even gets a PhD. My wife went into our program with 5 other Black students. All 4 of them got eliminated. She was the only one that survived. And so she's a badass. She's in terms of hierarchy, she's apex predator, like top of the food chain type of stuff, right? So what they did was they took all the Black people that they'd hired at every level, added them all up, and they didn't just and it wasn't just African American people. They were like, anybody who isn't a white man, we're going to lump everybody in this pile, right? So they literally I think they were including people from India and all kinds of stuff, right? And I don't even know. I got to go look at the language, but maybe they were saying like Black and brown. It was one of those things. Y'all know how the DEI game goes, right? And so we've seen a lot of examples where when we say, "Hey, we want a Black person in that job," then they say, "Okay, well, let's go get an African." No, that's not. I'm sorry. Love Africa. Go to Africa twice a year now, but that's not Black. That's not African American. "Oh, well, we're gonna go get somebody from Jamaica." Love my Jamaican people, 100%. I'm Team Usain, all that stuff, right? Usain, Keishane, all the sprinters. I love Jamaica, but that's not the same as African American. And so what I believe happens in America is there's a specific kind of history and disdain that people have for African American people that just doesn't go away. Why? Well, because we know where the bodies are buried. We have a beef with you because you stole our money, you sons of bitches. You took our wealth. My great granddaddy busts his ass to become a wealthy man, and then he gets lynched in Alabama, true story, because a white man stepped on his pregnant wife's toe, and he dealt with that man, and you took all his stuff. Like this is our story, right? And the thing is, we're like the Zionist community. Our motto is never forget. We will never forget what you did. We will never forget what you took, right? So there's a reason why a Barack Obama gets into office, but if Barack Obama was an African American man from the South Side, like Michelle was, and she's not a man, she's a woman, but you get the point. I don't think that the election would have happened the same way. Ketanji Brown Jackson, it matters that she is um, married to a white man that went to Harvard, and I think her family has immigrant roots. I got to double check that to be sure, but just tell me if I'm wrong. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Um, who else? Was Jean Pierre, the PR person that worked for Biden, right? A lot of these people that get positions are not African American people, so we kind of get substituted out. So I think that or even Kamala Harris. There was a big debate about, okay, well, Kamala, she did go to Howard, but that ain't the same as like we got an African American daughter that went to that didn't go. She didn't go to Howard. She's going to Tuskegee, but they're not. It's not quite the same, right? So really, I think that there's room to have the debate, but I think we don't have to be nasty at the same time. Like I think that we can debate this without it sort of undermining our natural allies. Because most people I meet from Jamaica are good people. Most people I meet from all parts of Africa are good people. And you can learn a lot from the culture. I ain't gonna lie, most of my Caribbean friends, I'm stereotyping like crazy right now, but most of my friends from the Caribbean are extraordinary humans. Like the hard work, the discipline, the commitment to family, like so many of them have this. And I think that there's something about being African American where we were just doused with this crazy subordinated slave culture to the point where we started, and I think music industry and all that stuff played a part in this, where we just literally were led to believe that unhealthy things were healthy and that abnormal behavior was normal. Right? Would you agree with me on that? And this is costing us tremendously when it comes to wealth. When I have to really, literally the fact that it was that this guy makes this profound quarter zip video where he says it's cool to go to school. What was like, well, who decided that it wasn't cool to go to school? Right? And you remember the time where it became cool to go to prison, even? And Tupac had to go out and tell all the young black men, prison ain't cool, prison ain't cool. Why? What in the hell, man? What weird universe do we live in where the most prominent rapper in America, most influential young black man in the country, has to literally make a public service announcement to tell young black men that prison is not a good place? That should You should know that from day zero. Who made prison into Disneyland? I need to find that person and kick them in their whole entire ass. That's crazy. Right? So the brainwashing's real. They've really done a rope a dope on us, and then there's a mistreatment there. And I think that we can have the conversation in a civil way. So let me go back to the quarter zip thing. I like it, and not just because I'm wearing a quarter zip now. I didn't even know I was putting on a quarter zip when I put it on because I've been wearing it for so damn long. I've been quarter zipping since the '90s, man. And a lot of men have been doing this. A lot of men, not just quarter zipping in terms of the look, but the culture. Just like, okay, no, I'm a decent man who wants to be smart, who wants to do a good job. I already know how to open a door for women. I think that they said the quarter zip man will treat women like ladies. Well, I ain't never wanted to treat women like anything other than a lady. I got a wife. I love my wife. I treated her well. I never thought that if I went and slapped the shit out of her that she would want to be around me, right? So the pimping culture, like I'm a disrespect women, that came out of hip hop. Somebody manufactured, some record label went and got $1 billion loan just so they can mass produce nigger culture by the pound to the point where we're absorbing this toxic stuff. We're taking in this poison and we believe that this is what we're supposed to be. right? Like somebody lied to you. So I don't think it should be. So there's nothing controversial about men showing up as men, men showing up as intelligent, men treating women well, men showing up as leaders, men wanting to improve themselves. And what I would say to those guys who are doing all the quarter zipping is, okay, the wealth must be a part of that conversation. If you know, because these quarter zips cost money, and those expensive cafe lattes or whatever you're drinking, the matchas. I still don't know what a damn matcha is. I don't want it. I don't care. Don't. So don't. If you see me, don't explain it to me because I ain't got time to even give a shit. But Starbucks is expensive, right? And so any lifestyle that you present, anything that you present to the world in terms of what kind of man you are, how well you're doing, how solid you are, must come with financial backing. It must come with not just the acquisition of resources, but the ability to protect those resources and preserve them. Because at some point, when you get a little older, you'll have a wife and kids that are dependent on you, and they need daddy to be solid. They need to know that daddy's not going to blow the family wealth at the casino. They need to know that daddy ain't going to smoke up all the money. They need to know that daddy ain't going to be in Magic City making it rain on them hoes. He ain't going to be out there just throwing the money, throwing it up like a rapper. He ain't going to be out here doing stupid stuff. They need to know that daddy's going to be solid and thoughtful and strategic and make a plan, right? That daddy's going to have a plan for the family, that he's going to be a part of the institution. He's going to be the tent pole for the institution that becomes our family. And that to me, that's what I see when I see the quarter zip movement. Okay, I don't care what you necessarily look like. I do know though that when you're presenting yourself to the world as a human, as a man, woman, or whatever, that you're more likely to attract wealth if you present yourself as a person who knows how to preserve wealth. Right? I do know that when they started calling young black men YNs, I'm still trying to find the son of a bitch who made that popular. Why? There's 300,000 words in the dictionary. Why must we choose that one? Right? Like we're not just going to let you become a nigga. We're going to make you a nigga from birth, so that way you don't have to upgrade at any point. You don't have to make any adjustments. You're already born there, right? Like that. Like we're limiting your potential early, so that you never ever aspire to think that you can become anything other than a nigga, right? Like that's crazy. The YN, that term YN is absolutely crazy. And what's really interesting, just to show you how crazy and racist America can be, there was a guy on ESPN who used that term YN. And didn't those all those white commentators who are super sensitive to, like saying things that are disrespectful to white women or whatever, they didn't even bat an eye. Why? Because a black man said it. He said, "Yeah, on Tuesday when the Bills play the Cowboys, the YN's gonna be ready to play." I said, did he just call us niggas on a Disney owned network? Like is okay with black people being called niggas on the air? Like literally, I'm like, are you kidding me? Because if he said that about Jewish people, you know what it would have been. You know what would have happened. You know what would have happened, right? So there is just kind of a disdain that others have for us and a disdain that some of us have for ourselves. And I think I just like the quarter zip movement because one thing that studies show is that when you love yourself and you take pride in yourself, you take pride in your appearance, you take pride in how you show up to the world, then good things are more likely to happen for you. And then also, when you think about it in terms of investing, the idea of being strategic and intelligent about investing leads to not just greater wealth acquisition, but it also leads to greater wealth preservation, right? Like if you compare and contrast YN culture to quarter zip culture, investing like a YN will cause you to lose all your money because you out here throwing it around, putting it into crazy stuff, right? You buying crappy cryptos and hoping that they double or triple, putting all your money into stock options, which unfortunately can turn into gambling. Whereas maybe the quarter zip investor is the person who has the diversified portfolio with assets in high quality companies that are going to preserve their value. Wealth preservation is actually one of the biggest parts of the whole wealth process because if you acquire a lot of wealth and you're very sloppy with it, you'll eventually lose it all, right? So culture is everything. And part of the reason I like the quarter zip idea is because I'm just like, well, whatever it takes to get us to just think highly enough of ourselves to realize that, did nobody, your mama didn't name you nigga. Didn't nobody, you weren't born to be that. Nobody said that that's who you were. Like, well, who the hell told you that anyway, that this is all you're supposed to be? And why are you defending it so hard? Like, why are you fighting so hard to keep your position at the back of the bus? That don't make no sense. So from a wealth standpoint, self-esteem is very important. This is why the healing matters. This is why the therapy matters and all these other things, so that you love yourself enough that you won't fight against a person who encourages you to love yourself. Okay? So self-love, that's important. Keep that in mind. All right, so let's pop in and let's go back to Instagram again. It's like so many cool interesting things that happened this weekend. I want to talk to y'all about it. And it's related. All this is what my goal is to take everything back to the economics. Okay, all right. So let me see. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Oh, here's another good one. All right. So give me a second here. This is interesting. This is something I saw about sort of economic perceptions and kind of wanting to keep up with the Joneses and how dangerous this can be financially. So I'm gonna play this now. Let me know if you can hear it. Here it goes.
5 things you didn't know about how Zillow is destroying relationships. First, it starts innocent enough. She's scrolling through million-dollar homes at 2 a.m., the eerie glow lighting up her face in the dark. Second, 67% of couples now fight about unrealistic housing expectations set by social media. Those perfect kitchens and marble countertops become weapons. Third, Zillow addiction increases relationship dissatisfaction by 45%. Constantly viewing expensive homes creates a dangerous comparison culture that poisons everything. Fourth, partners start resenting their current living situation and each other. They sleep in separate beds after house hunting arguments, dreaming of lives they can't afford. Fifth, here's the shocking truth. Couples who regularly browse homes they can't afford are 3 times more likely to cheat. Those virtual house tours become emotional affairs. They're not just fantasizing about different homes. They're fantasizing about different lives entirely. Different partners who could afford those dreams. Love without money gets heavy, but obsessing over what you can't have destroys everything. Here are 5.
So to me, what that really speaks to is how really counting your blessings is a really important part of your financial consciousness, right? One of the things about social media that becomes very messy is we get into comparison culture. It's very easy to become dissatisfied with what you have if you're constantly comparing yourself to other people, especially when you're comparing your life to something that isn't even real. Like you're looking at the part of their life that they're showing you and not really what's actually happening in your life. And it can happen to anybody. I can tell you there was um, a guy named Jamarlin Martin who I just really have a lot of respect for. I haven't talked to Jamarlin for years. Jamarlin created a website called Bossip years ago. Anybody heard of Bossip? Let me know if you know about Bossip. Bossip is kind of legend. They're like OGs in whole internet culture. Kim Kardashian got her start on Bossip. So one day Jamarlin invited me to come down to Florida to hang out with him on his. He has this little boat. It wasn't like a big yacht. It was like a little boat, and he wanted to go out and go fishing. And of course, I ruined it because I got sick and I threw up on the side of the boat. That's kind of funny. I should have known that because I did the same thing with the airplane. So I didn't know. I guess you don't want to be like the guy who has the motion sickness, but I guess I'm that guy. But anyway, so I was intrigued to go and meet with Jamarlin because I respect him. And for many years, it just looked like Bossip just had the keys to everything, that they were printing money. I mean, it was wild. And they were making, I think, as much as $20 million a year. And he told me how in the beginning Kim Kardashian would call them every day and and literally give them stories that they could run. And she would say, hey, this lady called me a slut, you should run that as your headline. Like stuff like that. Like she was just real business like about that kind of thing, which you can agree with that or not. But anyway, so one thing that was interesting though was when we talked, and I can't reveal everything because I want to be respectful, but it was like once he told me about the drama behind the scenes of like the difficult things they had to overcome and the things that went wrong for them, and we started comparing notes because I was like, yeah, man, I saw you for all those years. I was like, wow, these guys are really killing it. He was like, it wasn't that great. It got pretty bad, like to the point where I wanted to get out of this stuff. And by the time he told me all the stories, I was like, whoa, I would have left too. How did you survive all that? And so what I'm saying is most things that look perfect on the outside, it usually ain't what you think it is. You got to be careful about getting caught up in a fantasy, right? I mean, a beautiful fantasy will make you feel good, make you feel like the world is perfect, but I think it's better to find a way to really feel blessed by your own reality. Like count your blessings first. Sit down and think about all the things you've accomplished, the things you've overcome, the good things that are in your life, before you get to the point where you start looking at what he got and she got and what they're doing and how great their relationship is and all that. Just know, 9 times out of 10, the struggle is real for everybody. Everybody has struggles that you will never know about. I have struggle. There's stuff that I'm like, oh man, this is hard. This is stressing me out. We failed. This isn't working. So I don't want to ever contribute to that by letting you on any level ever believe that what I have, what I've done, whatever it is, that's perfect. No, it's not perfect. It's hard, right? So what I would say to you is, be conscious of that so that that doesn't cause you to devalue what you have. It's almost like what they when they say the teenage girls how they get hit so hard by social media and by media, where they'll show an image of some Photoshop woman who's on Ozempic and who got all these surgeries, and the girls comparing her real self to this fake thing that they put on the cover of a magazine. I say thing because it's not even the real person, right? By the time they get finished Photoshop and everything, it's not a real human anymore. It's a sort of human like, right? So by doing that and being conscious of that, that'll allow you to do the internal work to build and to acquire and to do the things you want to do. The wealth building process is a long, slow process. And here's the thing I also learned too is that when you drill back into your core values of just basic things that will make you great, that usually I find is what put you on a trajectory to build the kind of life that others look at and have a lot of admiration for. So rather than me focusing on what this person has and what that person has, when I'm conscious about it, I center back in and I say, well, if I am a hardworking person, if I work my hardest every day, if I seek to grow every day, if I'm focused and I set goals and work toward those goals, I may not beat out every single person on the planet, but that doesn't really matter. What's going to happen though is I'm going to have some success come out of this. Good things will be created from this. And so focusing on the internal is really, really important in a world that teaches you to look at the external, right? And that to me, that's a principle I've applied since I was in college. When I was an undergrad, for example, I used to get really frustrated because teachers would pick what grade they want to give you. And I liked classes like math because I could make an argument to say I got the problem right and you marked it wrong. That's pretty straightforward. But when you get to something like English or creative writing, I mean, who really knows if that essay is an A plus or a B or a C, right? So I had this constant anxiety over the fact that I couldn't control what grade they give me. So I said, instead of me focusing on what I can't control, I'm gonna focus on what I can control. And what I learned at 19 is I said, people who work hard, who study 4, 5, 6 hours a day, are usually gonna get what they pay for. Right? You're usually in life. This is the beauty of life. There's like in economics they might call this an equilibrium or just whatever, right? Usually you just get what you pay for. If some people want to fake it till you make it. They want to take the shortcuts. They want to do very little and get a whole lot. That's not going to usually work. The rule of the universe is usually you get what you pay for. If you make the extra sacrifice, then you will get the extra rewards. If you invest more, then you will have more wealth. People who have more wealth tend to be people who invested more. Am I right or am I right? Right? So at the end of the day, when it doesn't just apply to investing in stocks and bonds and real estate, it applies to investing in everything. So if you're investing more in your relationship, then your odds of having a good relationship are much higher than they would be if you didn't. If you invest more in your physical and mental health, then your odds of having those things together in a way or to be better off are much higher. Also, if you invest in terms of hard work in your outcomes, then you will usually get what you pay for. Sometimes things go wrong. Sometimes you invest a lot and you get a little. Sometimes you invest a little and you get a lot. But you can't rely on this false idea that I can invest a little and get a lot because that's going to lead to a lot of disappointment. And the world is full of people like this. I want you to look around and notice how many people you see who say, I want to have money. But when you say, well, how much are you investing? They say nothing. Well, how are you going to have money if you're not investing? Or if you say, or you say, well, how much time have you spent learning how money works? Well, none. Well, then how do you think you're going to master money and have money if you don't even understand money, right? So you're putting in the time, you're making the investment, and the reality is that the ROI, the rewards, the harvest, it may appear now, it may appear later, it may take a while, right? But the universe, you know how they say energy is neither created nor destroyed, it just sort of switches form and changes hands and all that. You're putting energy into this, and there will be a benefit to this. Right. So keep doing the right things. Keep working hard. Keep hustling. Keep pushing. Set a goal every day. Remember, excellence is a subscription that you renew every morning when you wake up. So every morning I spend a moment meditating, becoming conscious of who I am and the man I want to be today. Because there's 50 different versions of Boyce. There's the lazy Boyce, there's the unfocused Boyce, there's the Boyce who plays video games for hours, there's the Boyce who wants to go and watch football all day, right? There's a lot of different versions of me, and I had to make a conscious decision to say, which version of Boyce do I need to show up right now? Because there's another version of me that's still in the bed right now, right? Because we were up, me and my wife were up last night, right? We've been watching this show called Landman for a while, which is really interesting. Oh, Landman. Anybody watch Landman? Let's go. I've been all serious. Let's talk about Landman. Hey, anybody watching Landman on Paramount by chance? It is a good show, right? Billy Bob Thornton, and it is ironically my wife became has become good friends with a lady who used to be married to Billy Bob Thornton. She sang this song that was the prettiest song I've ever heard in my life. It's called Harlem Blues. It was on the soundtrack for Mo Better Blues. You know what I'm talking about? You can never tell what's in a man's mind, but when he's from Harlem, there's no use in even trying. Anybody know that song? Anyway, most beautiful song ever. I haven't met her yet though, but when I see her, I'm trying not to fan out and be like, "Hey, can you sing that song for me?" Like, I'd love to pay her money to sing it on my birthday or something. Like, I think that'd be awesome. But anyway, so circling back, okay, so this is me in tangents. I got to stop that. Anyway, the Billy Bob Thornton show, Landman on Paramount, is interesting because if you watch Landman, you will see that there are many, many, many financial lessons in Landman. In Landman, you've got three different classes of individuals, mostly men. There's women in there, but it's mostly the men that work in the oil rigs. You got the worker class that are doing the very dangerous work of working on the rig, the management class, which is Billy Bob Thornton's character, where he's managing the guys on the rig, and then you got the ownership class, the wealth class, which is played by John Hamm, who's the rich guy that Billy Bob reports to tell him what's going on with the oil well. Everybody has a different job, right? Billy Bob's job is to manage the workers. The workers' job is to do the work, and the rich guy's job is to finance what's happening, right? So everybody's doing a job that's difficult on some level, right? Even the rich guy is stressed out. He has high blood pressure. He's worried about the fact that he'd have to spend $2 million to build a new oil well. So it's not like anybody in that process is getting off easy. Everybody has their cross to bear, right? The workers, their cross to bear is that you might get injured or killed when the rig explodes or your hand gets caught and your hand gets chopped off, right? So you got to deal with the danger of the job. Then the manager, Billy Bob Thornton, had to deal with the fact, at least I'm only 3 episodes in or 4 episodes in. So if you've already watched a bunch of it, like, don't spoil it for me. But Billy Bob was worried about the fact that the Colombian drug dealers had crashed a plane on his land or something, and he was worried that they were going to blame him for what happened because he gave them authority to be on the property. It was something. It's complex. It's just watch the show. It's good. And then the guy at the top. His challenge is, how do I go raise another $3 million to keep this thing going? Because ain't nobody in this organization loyal to me for any reason other than the fact that I'm paying them. You understand? Like when people talk about being the boss, be careful what you wish for, because I can tell you, because I'm a little bit of a boss, there is always a cost to being the boss. Don't think that rich people that run organizations are just sitting around sipping their little matchas. I mean, I'm sorry using the word matcha to talk about coffee that I've never drank before, and just sitting here on the poolside and listening to classical music all day. No, no, it's stressful up there too. It's very stressful up there too. If you don't think it's stressful, then just go do it. Right? If you think that your boss's job is easy, or your boss's job, or the owner's job is easy, then great. Go in. Is matcha a tea? Oh, see, then they done lost me right there. I ain't drinking no damn tea. I want coffee. Right? I want something. I no, I don't. My wife drinks tea. I drink coffee. But anyway, so really, this perception, and this is why I'm not a Marxist. I'm a fan of Marxism, but I'm not a Marxist because I don't want to hear you vilify the owner of the company unconditionally as if they didn't work hard to get to where they are and that they don't have to make sacrifices and take risks. What happens with that person who runs the company? And a lot of you are going to be owners of companies. That's why I don't vilify that. I think the black community needs more business owners, right? So we can't vilify our business owners because then we're saying that we want our whole community to be full of employees. I don't want our whole community full of employees and people managing other businesses. I want our people running the damn show. I want our people, our smartest, most courageous, greatest risk takers to be able to run entire organizations that can put people to work and create opportunities for others. I don't want you sitting around waiting for an opportunity. I want you to know how to create one. Right? Opportunities can be manufactured just like you can go in the kitchen and bake your own cookies and cook your own chicken. You can create your own opportunities. I need y'all to learn how to cook. And not I don't want you to just learn how to eat. I want you to know how to cook. Okay. So anyway, with that being said, that challenge of being at the top. So this show was a real financial show. The wife tells a story about how the price of oil was really high, like $143 a barrel, and and they had plenty of money and they were doing all these amazing things. And then the price of oil dropped below $60, which apparently that's an important threshold. And suddenly they lost everything. And when they lost everything, his wife left him because she couldn't, it's because the financial anxiety was so high that she couldn't be married to a man that was broke. And actually, in case you want to know, like right now, the price of oil is about $59.70. So I guess the industry must be having a tough time. I don't know. I got to go double check. I'm not a big oil investor, but I do own shares of stock in Exxon, and it's made quite a bit of money in the last few years. So I got to research that more. But long story short, that whole show is a financial show. They talk about the ups and downs of the industry, the liabilities, the business choices that have to be made, the investments, the cost of capital, all kinds of stuff, right? So really, a lot of these shows, and what's really interesting, if you really look at a lot of these shows and you break them down, you'd be amazed how many shows are really all about finances and money. If you go back and watch Harlem Nights, anybody go see Harlem Nights? Remember that? Eddie Murphy made that amazing movie. That movie's all about money and fighting over territory and resources and business. Like money just drives everything, right? So when you are in this complex game of money as black people and you don't understand how money works, then you're going to be victimized by the people that do. And it's that simple. If you don't understand how money works, then you're going to be controlled and managed by the people who do understand it. And so when you're raising the kids and you're teaching the babies about the world, you teach them about money. And maybe you watch a show like Landman and you explain the differences between being the worker, the manager, and the boss. Most black people are trained at birth to be the worker or the manager. The greatest aspiration you have is to be the manager. The boss is in the back room that you don't even go to. You can't even conceptualize like where the boss came from. He just magically appeared out of heaven or something with $100 million in his bank account. There's no discussion about like what's required to actually be the boss. And in many cases, when you see a black person, not every case, but in some situations, when you see a black person who is the boss, a lot of times they're not even really the boss. The boss is the person that controls the capital. So in many cases, the person that controls the capital will put a figurehead in their place. And sometimes that person becomes a patsy. Sometimes that person is put in place just so they can take the fall if something goes wrong. Have you ever seen that before? Right. So you get all excited, like, ooh, they made me the boss. I'm excited, the boss, y'all. Look at me, I'm the HNIC, y'all. Right. And then next thing you know, when the shit hits the fan and everybody gets sued, you go down first. You go down first. So really, you know, being the boss is complex. And I think that it does require a type of thinking. I think that your children should see themselves as the boss. So here's how you're going to make your kid the boss without any form of institutional power coming from their oppressor. Write this down. This is profound. I think it is. I don't know. It's forming in my the thoughts forming in my head. Here's how you can make your child the boss. Um, Invest for them very early while they're young. You buy them as much stock as you can while they're young, but buy it for yourself. It's your wealth. Use it, but preserve it, just like a car. Like you're going to pass the car on, but you're going to change the oil, make sure the car's, healthy, right? When you pass it to them, but it's your wealth, right? So your mind stock and even if you don't have kids, by the way, Cass. Don't forget, you don't have to have a child in order to be a parent. So that's one thing I want to mention too. For those of you that don't have children, I don't have a lot of children, but I got a lot of children. If you know what I mean. I ain't got a lot of children, but I got a lot of children. Because if you black and I'm your mentor, then I'm gonna scoop you up because you're gonna be one of mine. I love that kind of thing. So here is what I want you to understand. So if you're buying this stock consistently, like you're spending the same amount of money you spend on your car note. So you spend say 600, 500, $700 a month buying stock. You do that for like 20 or 25 years. And then what happens is a capital base is formed in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, quarter million, 300,000. I don't know what the number will be, but it's going to be high. So at that point, now I want you to pay attention now. At that point, your child is already a CEO. The minute you have a capital base, you are a CEO. We just think a CEO is like a granted title or a job. It's not no, you control the capital base. The owner of a company, the people that run organizations, all corporations are is a big pile of capital that somebody's managing. Do you understand? It might be managed by an individual, it might be managed by a group, it might be managed in some other way, but for the most part, that's what Elon Musk, he's a CEO even if he's not running Tesla. If he left Tesla, he could take that $500 billion in wealth he has and say, now I'm going to take this wealth and I'm going to name it something else. I'm going to form an LLC, and we might or might not produce a product. Some companies don't even make a damn product. Do you know that? Like there's companies that don't make a product. What is it? MicroStrategy, run by Michael Saylor, who's a billionaire. MicroStrategy, literally, all they do is they buy a bunch of Bitcoin and they wait for it to go up. So they're what they call a Bitcoin treasury company. So this idea that being the boss means you have to have a job, that's bullshit. The idea that being a boss means you got to make a product, that's bullshit. You could literally just have a bunch of resources and assets that are accumulating in value and just be like, I'm the king of all this, I'm the queen of all this, and that makes you the boss. That literally a capital base makes you the boss. So when relatives come to you and say, hey, cuz, I need to borrow $5,000, and you say, okay, we'll sign this contract. This is how much you're going to pay with interest, and I need some collateral. You're running a business for the most part. At that moment, you're a banker, right? Like, but then you might become something else. Maybe you have real estate, and you're just holding the real estate, managing it, taking good care of it, and letting the value go up. Well, you're the CEO. You have resources to manage. So what the problem is, and I want everybody that's ever been affiliated with any HBCU to go back to your alumni association and tell the institution this message. Share this message with them. Send them a link to this video. Here's what you need to stop doing. You need to stop creating business managers and start creating people that can develop businesses. You need to stop just teaching people how to work the job and teach people either how to create the job or at least control the capital. That really is the key to having the security and the prosperity that's required. Robert Smith, a very nice guy. My brother met him, but I don't know the guy. But maybe some of y'all know Robert. Tell Robert I said that the next time he goes to Morehouse and he feels compelled to do that amazing thing that he did, which was to pay off their student loans, let's take the next step. Don't just get them out of debt. Let's get them ahead of the curve. Like, what does that create? The Y Combinator for Black people. Y Combinator is this great institution that has mostly white people in it, where they literally go in and they take these brilliant entrepreneurs, they take them through a whole process, then they give them access to a massive network, and they give them a bunch of capital, and next thing you know, they're creating these billion-dollar companies, the Ubers, and Sam Altman came out of that. Sam Altman controls the whole freaking world right now. OpenAI is worth $500 billion. So really, at the end of the day, the capital base is the key. That's the goal. If you have the capital base, then you control everything. You're the CEO, and you ain't even got to be running a business. You're managing assets. You're managing assets, and the best part about these assets is that they're not linked to your body. It's not like you have to go sell your body or sell your time or sell your intellect in order to make a dollar. Stop selling yourself. You ain't no hooker. You're not a prostitute, man. Let the money work for you. Your money should be working for you, but some people ain't got no money to work for them, right? And they say, well, how can I make my money work for me if I ain't got no money? Well, that's your daddy's. That's your parents' fault. That's like asking me why didn't I get an inheritance? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe people just didn't love you. I have no idea, right? I'm kidding, because they didn't love me neither. They didn't leave me nothing. But you got to stop doing this. Because if you use the value of the resources that are in front of you, the value of time, and somebody leaves assets in 1982 and consistently invests for that child from 82 up to 2010, then that 30-year-old has hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank. It's easy to do. And then at that point, you control something, you own something. It's not a company that's big enough for you to go conquer the world and do all these amazing things, but it's enough for you to have enough financial security and income that you can do whatever you want with your life. You at that point you are free. Freedom is typically preserved for those that have the resources to pay their own bills. That's when you become free, right? So when you talk about black business ownership should probably be evolved into another type of language. Maybe it's black capital accumulation. Maybe it's black capital instead of business ownership, which comes with the assumption that you're going to be working 10, 12 hours a day and all this other stuff and running an actual business that makes a real product. You ain't even got to do that. I'm telling you. Do you know how many people I know who are just sitting right now on a couple $1 million worth of stock, and all they got to do is not blow it. All they got to do is not waste the bag. And how did they get the couple $1 million? Because somebody started investing for them when they were little. They taught them the fundamentals, and then they create this capital base, and now they own companies like Nvidia, but don't do any work. They own companies like Apple. They don't make a single iPhone. They make companies like Nike. They ain't got to make no sneakers, but they're getting dividends and payments from all these companies that they own, and that becomes their income. The income does not come from the job anymore. The job is for people that don't have any capital base. And the goal is for them to keep you stripped down butt naked so they can clothe you in some raggedy ass rags and tell you that they're taking good care of you. A job really is a job which is just over broke. Job, just over broke. Jobs do not in America create prosperity most of the time, right? They give you enough money to pay your bills so that you remain healthy enough to continue to come to work. You can buy enough work clothes to look good on the job, and they can keep on paying you the paycheck so that you can keep on being the engine that's driving massive amounts of wealth for the people that have positioned themselves at the top of the food chain. So position your kids early so they can not hate being in America, right? So they can feel good about life. They can have some assets, they can have some security. You ain't got to run a business to be the boss. You just have to have capital. The person that has the capital has all the power. There's no Negro with a job that's ever had any true power. Almost never. Because the person who pays the bills is the one who decides how things are going to go. And I know this because I pay the bills for a lot of things and a lot of people. And if you don't do what the hell I say, then we're going to have a problem. Not because I'm going to force you to do anything. I'm not going to beg you to do anything. I'm not going to fight with you. All I'll do is say, well, I really don't want to invest in that. I don't feel comfortable allocating my resources toward that project. So we're going to do something different. And because that's clear and it's simple, we don't even have an argument. They just sort of understand that. So, and I'm not trying to be overly cold about it, but that's true. Because I can tell you that one thing I did not want when I was 18, our daughter just came home from college. It's her freshman year, and it's Christmas break or Thanksgiving break. And I was telling my wife, I said, I remember when I was exactly where she was in college. It was like it was yesterday. And I came home on Christmas break and I had a baby over Christmas break. My girlfriend was pregnant and I was scared to death. I didn't know what I was going to do. But I remember at that time, I remember thinking, I don't want to live my life like this. Like, I don't want to be scared my whole life. I don't want to be weak. I want to have some power over my own life. And at that time, I started thinking about like what gives you actual power. And I was like, oh, money gives you power. So that's one of the things that made me major in finance. I said, if I go study money, then to some extent, I'm studying what it means to have power, not power over other people per se. That's not the goal. I do have power over other people, but I don't get up thinking like, how can I control others? It's more like just saying like, I don't want the white man messing with me, disrespecting me, telling me what to do, deciding what my limitations are going to be. Racism sucks. Racism hurts. Also, I was like, if I want to go do something, I want to be able to do it. And I don't want money to get in the way of that. So let me go figure out how to get this thing done. And if I had understood that more intently at that time, one mistake I made that I wouldn't have made is I would have started investing much more aggressively much earlier. That's a mistake I made. I didn't really start investing aggressively till I was in my 30s. I should have did that at 18 or 19 years old. But really, if you do that for your kid, and then really in the ideal scenario, if you got a parent who understands exactly what I just told you, or a grandparent, and they start investing aggressively for the child when they're young, then they have a whole different experience in America. Because I don't care what race you are, if you've got money in the bank, there's certain things they can't do to you and certain amounts of power they will allocate in your direction just because everything is driven by money. Money rules everything around you. Cream, get the money, dollar bill, y'all. Anyway, all right, so so I'm gonna stop talking. I didn't mean to get so serious, but this is something I meditate on as I really kind of think that we end up looking for love in all the wrong places and chasing our own tail and using strategies that just don't work. Build the capital base, and then everything else falls into place. All right. So anyway, I'm gonna get out of here, guys. By the way, so if you want to get the Black Friday discount on the financial flashcards and workbooks for kids, or my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, you can go to drboycebooks.com and use the code word Black Friday 60, all one word, Black Friday 60. It'll take 60% off anything that you want to get in the store. Also, if you're not on the text list for this class, just text the word morning to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948. I'll send you an invitation every morning. If you ignore the invitations for too many times, then it'll automatically take you off the list, so we won't bother you anymore. But so make sure you click periodically to come on in if you want to stay connected. All right, and feel free to share it with anybody else that you think can benefit from this discussion. So God bless you guys. Have a great day, and you'll hear from me probably later on today, later on this week. So I'll see you guys later.